Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are. We're having some technical issues, so if you can just wait with us a couple of minutes, we'll get into today's program. We just need to make sure it's streaming live to the actual event. If not, we're going to copy a link across. So let us check for 2 seconds. In the meantime, if you are here, let us know where you're joining us from today around the world. Here we go. Let's see. 2 secs, everyone. And it doesn't look like it's linking. So where are we streaming to? That is the question. Because nobody's here.
We're popping in.
You what, sorry?
Oh, you're streaming somewhere. People are popping in.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Let us know in the chat where you're joining us from. I am trying to grab a link to shoot it across to our LinkedIn Live. If it's not joined there, I will sort it out. But in the meantime, it is with great pleasure that we bring today's program. It is one of our first generative AI workshops. I'm super excited about this new format. The idea is for us to share our learnings, look at various different platforms, start to think about how we can use generative AI in our world. With that, I wanted to maybe just talk through some use cases and let Terry and Jack do an introduction. And we have one more joining us. His name's Duke. I'm going to go find out which room he's in at the moment. So with that, Terry, please introduce yourself.
Hey, everybody. My name is Terry White. I work for Adobe as a customer advocate, evangelist. The title keeps changing, but basically I am here to help customers understand Adobe's tools and products and services. And of course, be your advocate for or be your voice for taking things back to the company. I've been with Adobe for 27 years. I primarily focus on photography. But today I'm here to talk about generative AI and what's available from Adobe.
Do you want me to go ahead and go?
Yeah, jump in.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jack Skates. I've been working in the sort of creative agency world for about 25 years. I actually spent about 4 years as a developer, which is kind of a weird thing for a designer to do. But I've worked in 15 different countries, countless different clients in multiple industries, and got into AI last year and started really focusing and studying on how it could help design activities and user experience activities, including even research. And it basically brought me to a point where I realized there was so much opportunity for people who work in that space that I actually wrote a book called The Creative Agency AI Playbook, which you can find on my website at Clever Good with a K. And that's about it for me. Today I'm going to do some demos and show some prompts using Claude. We were going to use ChatGPT, but it was having some issues this morning, so we switched to Claude. But we're going to go through a series of prompts and actually drop them in and watch these things be generated in real time. But I'll let Tia set that up a little bit more later.
Thank you. I get a few people are saying maybe wait for everyone to join, so happy to do that. In the meantime, in the comments, which platforms you're currently experimenting with. Is there a favorite generative tool that you enjoy using? If so, let us know. And additionally, what's your skill level? Are you beginner? Are you somebody that's advanced? Today is really a beginner entry level. So for anyone that's advanced, it's probably not the session for you. But again, welcome your input and would love to hear from you all. Duke, hello, welcome, Duke. I can see you're probably joining from your cell. Nope, he's gone again. Okay, well, we're just going to roll with today's technical issues as if they're it's the day. I think he's Mercury in retrograde. I have no idea, but anyway, let's move on. Whilst we're waiting for Duke to come back and do an introduction. Oh, there he is. Hey, Duke. Okay, we really are nailing this today. Okay, coming back to Duke. In the meantime, Terry, I would love for you to do a demonstration for us today and talk us through Adobe and the advancements that Adobe has, especially in the generative space. I'll bring up your screen ready for me to do so, and we can go from there. Okay. Over to you, Terry.
Sorry, I was on mute.
No
So I was
worries.
saying, give me a couple of seconds. I'm sharing this out now that we have the new link, and I think our other panelist jumped in, so he can introduce himself while I'm sharing this out.
Okay, sounds great. That's a really, really good idea. Duke, we are bringing you back up for you to do an introduction of yourself. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi, can you see me? Can you hear me?
We can, but you're blotchy.
Okay, maybe I'll turn the video off for a second and see if the sound is better. My internet where I am just went off, so I'm having to use my phone.
Okay, it's part of the technical issues today. I swear it's Mercury in retrograde.
Yeah. So my name is
Duke, unfortunately, your service is going to be an issue for the feed. If you could just like reconnect, we're actually going to get Terry to do a demo. So we've got about 10, 15 minutes for you to reconnect and come back because you're really, really important for today's feed. All right, Terry, are you ready to go?
I am ready to go.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome. Again, my name is Terry White with Adobe. I'm going to talk about two things today, and that is basically the big thing for Adobe is generative AI. And we started the generative AI journey with a site or technology called Firefly. That is our engine for generative AI. And anyone, you don't have to be an Adobe customer, you don't have to have a Creative Cloud account, you don't have to be a paid member. Anyone can head over to firefly.adobe.com and try it out. So I'm on the site right now, firefly.adobe.com. And when we started out, there were basically two things you could do. You could do text to image and you could do text effects. Since that introduction back in March, excuse me, we've now added generative fill, we've added generative recolor, and we're working on more things. So you can kind of follow the site along to follow us or join us on our journey with generative AI. So I'm going to spend a few minutes here just talking about what you can do on the website, especially since a lot of you are new. And the one thing I love about this website, even though Firefly is still considered beta, it's not a released product or released technology yet, the website feels released. In other words, it doesn't feel like a beta product. So if I hop over to text to image and I click generate, what I'm taken to, and this is great for beginners, is I'm taken to a screen with examples. In other words, as I just scroll this gallery, which is always changing, always evolving, I can see images and I can more importantly, hover over the image to see what the prompt was. But it gets better. If I'm trying not to always use the same one I always use. So let me try this. Okay, we'll try this one. This one is Grand Edwardian chair, zebra on the chair, looking at the camera, close up, formal background, studio. But if I click on that, it will actually take me to not only the prompt, but 4 variations of that, including the one with the sticking its head through the chair.
Wow.
AI, this proves that AI is not human. But anyway, if I now want to experiment with this and say, well, horses or zebras are cool, but I like horses. So I can say horse, just simply changing whatever part of the prompt I want and hit generate. Now, again, I'm testing this out, pretending I'm new to this, but there's nothing stopping you from you don't have to start with a gallery image. You can just start with a blank prompt and just go in and do your thing. So you can go in and just, if you know what you want to type from scratch, or you can use these prompts that are already here to kind of give you some inspiration or ideas. So this is giving me the horse version, or I could say, you know what, let's do puppy. And let's also say that instead of a chair, it's a sofa. So just hit generate. And Firefly is always going to give you 4 results. And what I encourage people to do is if you see a result you like, don't think that you're going to always have that exact result come back. So if I like this one on the left and I say, well, I want to keep playing, then I want to go ahead and download that right on the spot. It saved it to my downloads folder as a PNG file. And now I have that file to use or play with. That way I can keep playing and I won't lose this one. Now you can mark it as a favorite, but favorites aren't guaranteed to stay forever. And you can even say that I want to see similar. Let me see here. I can go in because they changed this a little bit since the last time I was here. There we go. So I can say show similar, meaning that I like this one, show me more like it. So you have lots of options on how to, you can even use it as a reference image to type in a new prompt, but use this as a reference image to start with. And of course, we're adding our Adobe technologies into this, like remove background, add text, apply filters, so forth and so on. So you can do that in Adobe Express. So this is just great that you have this option for free that just jump right in. You don't have to do anything but have a free Adobe ID, and then you can go and experiment. Now, these all came in as portraits. Well, what if I need one for my YouTube thumbnail? So I can go widescreen, and that will give me a 16:9 version. And again, it's just regenerating all 4 of these based on the same prompt, but now in the different aspect ratio. And there they are. I love puppies. All right. So there we are. And of course, you can go in and change the style. These are some of the popular ones. You can change your color and tone. You can change the lighting. So if you want it like golden hour, if it were outside, you could do that. You can even change the composition from shot from below, shot from above, so forth and so on to kind of help the prompt along the way. And each one of those will be added down at the bottom of the prompt. And then you can go ahead and remove them if you don't need them anymore. Now, that's great. But what if I want to, okay, now that I've seen how this works, what if I want to go in and create my own prompt? So at this point, I would normally, like if I were in a live audience, I would just have people start yelling stuff out and I would type it in. But
we can yell stuff out. We can do a semi-live audience. There you go. Jackson. Okay.
This is totally unscripted, by the way, so I'm scared. But let's go.
No. My obsession, because we're on the focus of puppies, I like the idea of a puppy and a robot in space.
Puppy and a robot in space. All right. I have no idea what I'm going to get. That's the beauty of AI. And even if we had rehearsed this, these results would be different from the rehearsal.
Oh my God.
It's always going to give us something different. So there you are. It's interesting how it chooses which one's wearing the helmet and which one isn't.
Oh my goodness, so cute. So my 2 favorite things: robots and puppies. What about you, Jack? What can we do another one?
Sure.
Yeah, Jack, give an idea, or anyone in the audience want to shout something out? Please comment.
Yeah, somebody said in the chat, a high quality portrait photo of Arnold Schwarzenegger on a bicycle.
Okay, great. But that's I'm glad you actually asked for that, because unlike all the other generative AI out there, we sourced ours from our Adobe stock collection so that we can be commercially safe. So we don't have public figures, brands, things like that you could type in. So we can't generate a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger because our AI engine doesn't know who that is. It doesn't know what that is. So it has to be something non-commercial because we're commercially safe. So that way you won't ever worry about being sued from generating an image using Firefly. So give me something that's not commercial, that's commercially safe. That's not a known person or brand.
Right.
Jack, come on, throw something out there.
Okay, how about a unicorn riding a bicycle on the moon?
Lots of space.
Lots of commercial applications in these examples.
Oh, if I could spell bicycle. Riding a bicycle on the moon. All right, spelling does count. There you go.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive, I have to say. That's really good.
Yeah, and bicycles weren't always good, so the AI keeps improving. So,
it's also really nice that you have the parameters over on the menu on the right instead of having to know like all of the switches and codes and stuff to like you need to know with Midjourney, right?
Right. So again, if I wanted to change any of this, so instead of it being widescreen, maybe I need a square version for Instagram or something. Then I can just do square, and it will regenerate based on the same prompt, same conditions, same style, same everything you just did, based on that new aspect ratio.
Yeah, it's super fast too. It's impressive.
Very impressive. Very,
All right. And so again, any of these, you really like it?
Yeah, everyone can try this now, right? They can just go across the Adobe
head
website.
over to, after I'm done, head over to firefly.adobe.com and check it out. You can try this right now. All right, so that's text to image. You kind of see what you do. You basically type in a text prompt, generates 4 examples. If you don't like any of them, let's say I didn't like any of these, I would just hit refresh and get 4 new ones. So you can keep hitting refresh and keep generating until you see a result you want. Now that's text to image. You can start with a gallery, start with your own prompt, use the gallery's prompts, change them to your own. You can do it, start any way you want. I'm going to head back because what I also want to show you while I'm here, let's go back one more time, is I want to also show you which I kind of got like burned out quickly on text to image because I was doing it like nonstop when it first came out. The other thing I got really excited about was text effects. Now I'm going to skip over generative fill because I want to, even though you can do that on the website, I'm going to show it to you in Photoshop, which is where I would normally use it. So let me go ahead and hit text effects, generate. And these are literally text effects. So you can start with whichever effect you want, or you can just describe it from scratch. So for a lot of people, it's easier to scroll through the gallery and kind of find one. That one looks like a balloon. I always like the gold dripping one. So shiny gold liquid drip. So I'm going to go ahead and just click on that. And it will render the word Firefly because you didn't give it a word yet. So, or I didn't give it a word yet. And let's do our host here.
Wow, that's amazing.
All right. Well, what if I don't want this on a white or a yellow background? Well, I can say, give it to me on a black background, or give it to me on no background. Make it transparent so I can put it on top of something else in another program. Now, you also notice that, for example, the match shape goes from tight, medium, and loose. And it took me a second to realize what that meant, but as you can see, there's drips of gold. So those drips are currently kind of close to the letters. If I go tight, they will be kind of like either touching the letters or not going too far out. So it'll re-render it based on that. And if I go loose, then the drips will, or the splatters will start to happen outside the characters, which is kind of fun, as you can see here. So I get multiple versions of this, by the way. So I get 4 versions of this. And I can, of course, at any time, download the one I like. So what do you think? Oh, and by the way, you also have the ability to change the font. So if you want a different font, there's a font as well. Now, these are just, we have some fonts in here. We expect to add more because, you know, we are Adobe. We do make fonts. So we have the ability to have the entire font library in here at some point. But
hey, Terry, somebody was asking about copyright and can you copyright the output of these?
I'm not a lawyer, so I'm going to say I'm not a lawyer. So I'm not going to give you permission or tell you no, because I don't like for generative fill, I'm going to say no. I'm sorry, for the text to image, I'm going to say definitely not, because that's not yours. But for text effects, I don't know. I never thought of it. So I'm not a lawyer. I don't know. Yeah,
my understanding is most AI generated content cannot be copyrighted because it wasn't authored by the person filing the copyright.
Right.
But I don't know if there's nuances with image generation, or because obviously, as you pointed out, Adobe is a big commercial enterprise. You obviously have to stay within the boundaries of the law way more than a lot of startups do. Right. So, for example, in beta, you can download these files and use them personally. Once we release out of beta, then you can download these files and use them commercially. But that still doesn't give you the copyright to say, this is mine, no one else can have it. Does that make sense? Yep. All right. All right. So that's what you can do on the website. And again, I'm going to pop back out to the homepage here. And keep in mind, you still have generative fill. You still have generative recolor for vectors. But I'm going to show you, instead of showing you generative fill on the website, which you will still be able to do even if you're not a Photoshop user, I'm going to pop over to Photoshop, which is where I spend the bulk of my time.
So in Photoshop, I've got some examples here. Let me pop back over to my first one. And this is, if you've seen me publicly, you've seen me use this example because this is an example that a lot of people get. And plus we all like sweets, most of us anyway. So for example, let's say I like sweets, but I don't like cupcakes. So what I can do is just simply use a lasso tool. I don't have to be a very precise or professional lasso tool user. And I'm making all kinds of mistakes along the way, but that's okay. It's very forgiving. And then you'll notice that as soon as I make any selection in Photoshop now, and by the way, I should say Photoshop beta. So if you're a Photoshop user and you have the regular release version, you won't see this. But if you go to your Creative Cloud, click beta apps, download Photoshop beta, then you will see this. So this is currently in beta. So and anyone can go get the beta if you're a Photoshop user. So if I now pop in, I see an option for generative fill. So when I hit generative fill, it gives me a prompt. And so I can go ahead and fill in that prompt the way I want. So I can say, instead of cupcake, I want an caramel ice cream sundae.
No way. I do actually now, right now, that'd be so tasty.
I know, right? I wonder why I use this example all the time.
So tasty. No way.
Well, that's not, to me, see, that's not caramel.
That's
caramel.
I mean.
All right. So Photoshop gave me 3 choices. I like this one best, but what you really have to keep in mind, what it did, it not only gave me a caramel sundae in the first one I would call chocolate, but it gave me the sundaes. It put them in perspective. It put it on the table. It used the shadowing. It used the lighting. It used everything from the original. And if you look closely, it's being lit by the sparkler down on this side. So even though the sparkler wasn't part of the selection, it gave me that as part of the result. So even if I want to say, and by the way, this is non-destructive, that's a layer. So I can always come back and turn that layer off. And as long as I have that layer, I can go in and change the prompt. So instead of caramel, I can say strawberry.
Oh my goodness. And calorie free, obviously a strawberry calorie-free version.
I don't know if it would know how to do that.
I'm just joking.
And you notice it's not getting rid of my other 3 results. So I still have the same first 3 results, and now I have ones that are based on strawberries.
Wow.
Okay, that's making a selection over something else. It's really just put it on top of the existing one. What if I were to go in and just grab my rectangle marquee? Anyone knows how to use this. You just drag it out. You made selections for years. So I just make a selection like that. Now I go generative fill, and I can type in whatever I want to be next to this. And I'll ask the panel for an example, but I'm going to type the one I normally do, which is toy robot wearing sneakers taking a selfie. All right. So again, it gets like, that's something I know that doesn't exist anywhere else. I just made that up. And therefore the results should be based on that. And there it is. Toy robot wearing sneakers, taking a selfie. That one's not taking a selfie. So I would actually delete that result because it's not right.
Yeah.
That one's okay. So I can delete the results that aren't good and hit generate again and get more.
Wow.
It feels like it's also picking up on the lighting from the sparkler, even that as well, right?
Yep. So not taking a selfie, don't need that one. That one is, and that one is. So those would be the results I'd keep and pick which one I want. And keep in mind, the original layer with the ice cream sundae is still there. The layer with the robot still there. And now the panel can give me their prompt for what they want to put in that rectangle instead of the robot. Let's hear it.
Could you use the puppy and robot version of earlier?
Sure.
Yeah. And also, well, the audience said they can't see the prompt. So I love it when you read it out.
Okay.
Possible.
All right. So you give me a prompt and that's what I'll type in.
Just a puppy and a robot at an
puppy and robot
walking to an ice cream store.
Walking to an ice cream store. All right, so I'll zoom in for people that can't see that, but there's the prompt. Puppy and robot walking to an ice cream store. And then I'll just hit generate. And I'm interested to see how it's going to do the store part of this.
Yeah, me too. And while it's working, sorry guys, I cannot remove Terry's name off the bottom. They can't see the prompt on the bottom. So next time,
Okay, I'll make sure it's never down there then.
Yeah, we'll do it.
It didn't give me my puppy though.
There he is.
Well, yeah, but it's not giving me both. It's even giving me one or the other. Oh, and that's kind of a puppy and a robot. Puppy. How about let's change the prompt to puppy with robot.
Puppy with robot. See how just the with will change the prompt.
Yep. And I'm changing the prompt. Now I'm changing it up here in the properties panel, by the way. It's combining the two still. All right. So again, it's a beta. We're not quite there yet. And again, it could also just be the syntax and the way I'm wording the prompt that can make the change.
So Terry, on that, for a second, right, just to explain to the audience, because this is a workshop style, I think the idea is to get people experimenting with the syntax. You know, it's very, very important, like each word, each description of a word, like for instance, I'm Australian. So to me, when I'm describing something I would wear to the gym, it's a jumper, but in America, it's a jacket. So obviously different words that mean different things to the model will obviously pull through, and just changing those words will often change the result, right? Is that kind of like, how would you suggest somebody writes a good prompt? What makes it up in the Adobe Suite?
For me, what I've learned is that whatever you put at the front of the prompt tends to be more important than what is like 20 words down in the prompt. So if it's the important part of the prompt is the beginning. So that's why I tried puppy alongside robot, or here, let me try this. Robot, let me try robot first and see what happens. Robot walking with a puppy. So let's see if this one does better. With a puppy. Walking with a, walking, there we go, take out walking twice, to an ice cream store. Okay, so here's the new prompt. Puppy robot walking with a puppy to an ice cream store. Now I could also try holding a puppy, but let's try this first.
Okay.
So generate. Because I'm trying to get the AI to understand I want two things. And it keeps trying to combine them into one. So we're getting puppy robots. And again, we're just getting the robot. So again, let's try this one more time. Walking a puppy on a leash.
Yeah, so a little bit more description and context.
Yeah. Leash to an ice cream store. All right, let's try that. And it could also have something to do with the selection too. The selection was kind of narrow, so it may not think it has enough room to do all that.
Oh, we've got a dog pen. That's cool.
Yeah. So it did give us the dog pen kind of, but again, it's just getting confused on this. So
I mean, it was a complex ask. Like,
yes.
I don't think anyone's really going to be trying to create a creative for a puppy and a robot yet. Let's try a different prompt.
Okay.
What about something commercial? So, a woman with a cell phone. Something, and put them show the audience how you maybe would write a really good prompt for a woman walking to the ice cream store with a cell phone, or something a little bit more commercial.
So a woman with a cell phone. Because again, that's to me the most important part, woman and cell phone. Yeah. Then walking to an ice cream store.
The store it might get thrown on as well.
Right.
Okay. Any store. It could just be walking.
You know what? Here, I'm going to finish this ice cream store. And I'm going to select that prompt, copy it, and I'm going to just change my selection. So let's turn that off for a second. And let's give it more room to work. All right, so I'm just making the selection bigger, and then I'll paste in that exact same prompt. All right, so the prompt's up here, by the way. The first time you do the prompt, it's on the taskbar. So I did it up there now. And then from that point on, the results will be in the property panel and the prompt will be in the property panel going forward for that particular selection. Now, people, limbs, walking, all of that can be touch and go. This one, it kind of did the shallow depth of field because it was in the background there. And again, we get the cell phone, we just don't get the walking. So yeah, it's hit or miss in this case when you're doing a prompt like this. So it could be, how about, let's try it. Let's again, switch it up a little bit. A woman walking. Let's make that part the most important with a cell phone to an ice cream store. So see if we can get it to do it that way. Because now we put the walking towards the front. Oh, we're getting the cell phone, but not the walking.
Interesting.
So, yeah, and it could just be this is the build of the beta today. Tomorrow you could get a different result that's closer to what you're asking for.
But I mean, a year ago it didn't exist. So
right. Well, not even a year ago. 6 months ago it didn't exist.
Exactly. When we start to think about the creative possibilities of what these tools can do, it's definitely like the reason why we're all on this journey together. There's a few comments in here about the different styles of prompts. And for anyone in the audience, like, please feel free to log into Adobe now and try some of your prompts and drop some of the pictures you are generating in the chat for others to see along with the prompts. As you can see, prompting is an art and it's down to the individual. It's really up to like how you would creatively approach explaining.
Now, I'm also going to show you some examples where you don't need a prompt. So for example, this was a shot I took in Iceland back in 2016.
Okay.
And I made all kind of mistakes. I didn't get there early enough. People were in the way. I didn't shoot my long exposure because there were people in the way and I was just frustrated. But then so I got home, I got this shot and I just never used it. So now, resurrecting this shot from 2016, I'm going to go ahead and zoom out a little bit. There we go. So my name's not in the way. And I'm going to go ahead and just make a big, generous selection around all of these people at the same time. Come back around. And I'm going to go ahead and do that, and do that, and do that. And then I'm going to grab the person over here, or whatever this is over here on the right. And then I'm going to hit generative fill. But I'm going to leave the prompt blank. So right now there's nothing in, I'm not going to type anything in. I'm going to hit generate. Because our tool, our AI engine is designed so that if you don't give it a prompt, then you're asking the AI to do what it thinks should happen. And in most cases it will remove. Sometimes it will try and put something else in there, but in most cases it'll do exactly what I want it, which is get rid of all the tourists. And that's what I got. So I have 3 results of the tourists being gone. And again, the time it would have taken me to do that would have taken some time. It wouldn't have been hours, but it would have taken me more than a few seconds to get rid of all those people. All right, so then I said, well, that's cool. I did shoot a long exposure of that above all the people. So I just lifted my camera up and got the rainbow and everything. But I was never happy with this because you couldn't see the bottom of the waterfall. So I'm going to zoom this one out a little bit, and I'm going to use my crop tool, and I'm going to change the aspect ratio. There we go. And we'll just crop down, back over. And we added something recently called Generative Expand to the crop tool. So it's now a choice from content aware fill to just the background to now Generative Expand. Now I will say I'm in a beta. So in this build, sometimes it leaves a line now, and that's introduced in this one version of the beta. That will be fixed in the next version of the beta. All right, so Generative Expand, and just, again, no prompt. I just click OK, and I let Firefly, the engine, Firefly built into Photoshop, understand what I'm trying to do. And I get results like this.
You know what? One of the things I found really helpful with that, Phil, is when you're trying to create any kind of artwork where you have to have room for text, and you get these photos and there's really no room, but there's maybe a little background off to the side, so you just expand the artboard like off to the left and then have it fill that area, and you will typically have a new composition where you have room for text and to be able to add other things. It's super helpful. I built an entire hero space for a web page based on a cropped portrait of somebody, and then added a tremendous amount of context to be able to make room for all of that text.
And along those same lines, I never did it on this image, so I'm seeing it for the first time. I never went up to give me more room for text.
Have you seen there's a trend on TikTok where people are taking like famous album covers and then basically putting it on an artboard with a big expanded space, and then having generative fill the context? And I've seen like Beastie Boys sitting on a sidewalk where it's really cropped in, and then all of a sudden they're sitting under a bridge, and there's like, and it looks natural. It doesn't look like it looks exactly like the original photo that they cropped.
I know, it's amazing. And here, let's go for broke. Let's try one more. Let's go out this way with it. And I have one more example, then I will turn it over to the next guest.
My mind is blown.
And it just keeps getting better.
And we're just at the beginning. Wow.
All right, we're only 4 months in, and this is what we're getting so far today. And again, keep in mind, we came from that to now.
Wow.
That. All right, and again, this line, I see it, it's going to be gone in the next build. And it was gone in the previous build, so that just got introduced as a bug. All right, let me give you one or two more examples. This is one of my favorite recent ones. I just posted this one on social and my YouTube channel. So we've all seen old pictures like this that are destroyed, tattered, parts of the person missing, so forth and so on. And professional retouchers spend hours rebuilding photos like this. So I would start with my lasso, and I would just literally start lassoing each scratch. And I'm not going to do that in front of you because I don't have time to go through every single one. So here's what I've done. I've gone through every single one, and I've saved it as a selection. So now I'm going to load that selection back in. I called it damage and scratches. And that just loads in all the work I did manually up front. So that's literally nothing special. It's just the selections, just a little marching ants there.
That's still pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, now that I've gone in and I've selected every little thing that I wanted to replace, I'm going to go to generative fill, which is down there at the bottom. And again, no prompt. I'm just going to hit generate. I don't have to say repair, make it better. I don't have to do any of that because I'm letting the engine analyze the image and say, hey, this is probably what you're looking for. Now, the problem also with this is the eye. There was an eye that was completely gone. So it's kind of to make up what the eye should look like. I kind of like this one best. But there's still, like, this is cleaned up quite a bit, saving quite a bit of time. But we have a photo restoration AI that we've had out for months in beta. So if I go to now that I've done this, I'll make a composite layer there. If I now go up to my filter menu, come down to the neural filters we introduced a few years back, there's a neural filter called photo restoration. And when I click on that to finish this image, and we'll pump up the scratches and we'll pump up the photo enhancement, and we'll let it finish, then we get that.
Wow, 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 wow.
I'm going to output that to a new layer so that way I can paint back in any areas that I don't like. And last but not least, we would just do a simple crop because we don't need the old tattered border. We could give it a brand new white border if we want, or whatever color we want. And that becomes our new picture.
Amazing.
So from that to this in a matter of seconds instead of hours, days, weeks, months, whatever.
Wow.
All right. Let's see if I got one more fun one. I want to end you on something pretty neat here. Yeah, let's do one of the puppies.
Oh.
You like puppies, so let's
you know, it's the way to my heart. I think they're just the best animals in the world.
trying to use the one with a little bit more foreground.
Are puppies your morning coffee? Is that?
Yeah.
All right. So we have a puppy here, and the puppy looks like it's running towards the camera. I thought I had one with a little bit more foreground than that, but maybe not. Let's see. Hold on, maybe I'll put it in here. Here it is. I knew I had one. All right, so that was giving me a little bit more foreground. All right, so now what I want to do, and it's also running kind of on like a wet pavement. So I'm just going to go ahead and make just a rough selection around the front.
Yeah.
And my prompt is going to be, so now I am going to type in a prompt, generative fill. And my prompt is going to be puddle. Oh, whoa.
That's better. We can see it now.
Puddle of rain water. So very simple. Puddle of rain water is the prompt, and we'll just hit generate. Because I expect water, but what I never expected when it did this is that it would also give me, as I build up to it, the reflection.
Whoa.
There's the reflection of the puppy in the water.
Wow.
Now,
Wow.
What if I need to move it? Wait, it gets better. What if I need to move it over? Well, now it's off. I just hit generate again. And it looks at where I moved the selection.
Wait, what?
Regenerates it based on the new location.
Wow. And the prompts are very simple, right?
Yeah.
These aren't highly complicated. Anyone can get in and start to play with these tools, like a puddle of rainwater. That's not.
Did I say anywhere in that prompt add a reflection? No. The AI was smart enough to know to do that because water is reflective.
That's crazy. Wow. Oh, well, this is amazing. And I would love to stay in image generation, but we're actually going to transition shortly to text. I can see some amazing engagement, some amazing questions. For all of you in the audience, Terry creates a lot of content. He has a weekly channel. You can connect with him on LinkedIn. He also has a YouTube channel. So connect with him, follow his work. I've heard him speak at the Firefly, I think it was the launch here in New York.
Yeah, it was actually the launch, of Firefly.
It was.
So you were there day one on the ground floor.
I was sitting up there and like writing my little notes, and I remember being mind blown then. And it's already advanced leaps and bounds since that day. So I'm super excited to see what Adobe keeps working on. We would love to have you back. We're going to continue our prompting series for everybody just to come and experiment with these great tools. And I want to take away the fear for people. I want people to be encouraged to start playing with these tools. I think they're great enhancements to our everyday work. I don't think they're replacing people yet. I just think they're great enhancing tools. So Terry, do you have anything you would just like to end on before I head over to Jack to look at generative models for text?
Well, you brought up something that typically comes up is, oh my God, this replaces what I do. This is a tool, just like auto selections became a tool. So that doesn't replace necessarily what you do. It gives you a tool to do more. As a photographer, one of the things that, and here, I'll end on this. I thought I was done, but let's do one more very quick one. And it will help me just tell my ending story here. Let's do, I think it's in here.
Did I?
There it is. All right. So there's me. Again, load the selection in. So let's load it in.
You're not sharing yet.
Oh, yep, you're right. I'm not.
And hi, everybody that's still joining along. Keep coming in, leaving comments. We love to see the engagement. Love it. Hello to everybody.
Can you see that window?
It's not showing up yet.
How about now?
Mm-mm.
Okay, hang on.
Oh, I think today is just the day of technical issues.
No, it's, I should have said share screen. Okay, now let's do it. There we go. You should see it now.
Okay.
All right, so that's me. A couple years ago, I'm gonna go ahead and load my selection in just of everything except my head, basically. So
Okay.
my clothes. And as a photographer, a lot of times we get into situations where the outfit's not quite what the client wanted or needed. So the time would be, and usually at your expense, having to reshoot it.
Yeah.
But now I could just go in and type in a prompt, for example, business suit, and generate.
It's a very simple prompt.
Very simple. Business suit was and I made the selection already. So just, again, lasso around the shirt and under my neck. And start getting business suits. Wrinkle business suits, but business suits.
I mean, yeah.
All right. How about gold sweater? So again, very simple prompt, gold sweater, generate. So now as a photographer, I have a unlimited supply of wardrobe changes that just literally are by a prompt. And so, for example, I can then make another selection here really quickly, and then I'm done. Because I usually do this on a female subject, but since we're out of time, we'll do it on me. And we'll do fashion earring. So I just made a rectangular selection around my ear, hanging down. And now I have a fashion earring on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You can change the color.
Yeah. So again, I'm using very simple 1, 2, 3 word prompts to get the results I'm getting. And again, those are all on different layers. So if I go back to that original layer and I say, you know what, I need a red sweater, not a gold one. I just change it to red and let it generate a new one. So my ending comment is that I don't fear this replacing me. I look at this as another tool that's going to help me do things that would have either been hours of time, or I just would have said no to the job because the job was too hard to do and it wasn't worth the money. Now I can actually offer things to clients that I wouldn't have been able to before.
Yeah.
So that's the way you should look at this. Is it's not replacing me. It's giving me another tool in the tool belt to do things that I probably wouldn't have done before.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a huge fan. Thank you so much, Terry. We really appreciate you. I know you've got to jump to something at the top of the hour. With that, I'm going to hand over to Jack. And Terry, have a wonderful day. Thank you. We hope to have you back. As Adobe keeps advancing, we would love to be the forefront. And at least I hope everybody in the audience has a chance to try it out and can start experimenting. And please feel free to join this community. We're going to keep learning together. So thanks, Terry.
Thanks, everyone. You can follow me at Terry Lee White just about everywhere. So I'm there, I'm that name everywhere on social. Cheers, everyone.
Thanks, Terry. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, Jack.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi. I mean, that's just mind-blowing, right? Just all of these platforms are coming on leaps and bounds. And talking about technical issues, right? On top of not being able to log in today and stream, we also today had technical issues with ChatGPT. So is ChatGPT back up again, or are we Clauding? What's the gem? I'm going to let you share from now on.
Yeah, like Tiaran was pointing out, we were, of course, right before we started, ChatGPT wasn't loading and having problems, so we decided to switch to Claude, which is another model exactly like ChatGPT. It's a little bit more of a more current data set, where ChatGPT is limited to only information up until September 2021. Claude is a much more recent data set. It has a slightly bigger data set. You can also upload documents for context and even send live links, which with ChatGPT, you need to have a paid subscription to access the plugin architecture that does those. But we're going to use Claude today because it's been working fine. And what we're going to do is we're going to walk through a few demo prompts, just some general prompts to see how you can sort of generate things even without a lot of detail, and then what happens when you add a lot more detail. And then we're going to go into sort of like a use case where we're going to design a new smartphone, and we're going to use ChatGPT to help us really go through like an entire product design cycle using ChatGPT that will lead us to actually then getting to actually creating prompts for things like Midjourney or even potentially with Firefly. So the first one I'm going to start, and I have some that are sort of copied and pasted. So one of the things when I first got into AI and ChatGPT, it's like when everybody Googled for the first time, you had no idea where to start. And one of the things I decided, because I travel a lot, I've worked in 15 countries, and packing for all these different places and different purposes can be very daunting. So one of the things I had done was I gave it a list of literally all of my clothes, everything that I would take from my bathroom on a travel. I'm also a photographer, so I listed all my photography equipment and all of my electronics and my luggage. And I would basically say, now that you have all of that, I'm going to go to this place for this thing during this time of the year. What should I pack? And it would not only give me a packing list, but it would tell me which bags to use. So I'm going to do a light version of that here and just say, I'm going to Vietnam on a business trip in July for 1 week. What should my entire packing list include? So this is the result. So it knows I'm going on a business trip. So it's giving me some business attire. It has some casual wear, undergarments, all of the toiletries, my electronics, and then even documents. Now, the interesting thing is I never said anything about documents, but again, when you're less specific, it can sometimes fill in gaps, and it's really great for discovering like out of the box things like, oh, of course I should have a list of my documents. Oh, business cards, right, of course. So all of these, this can be very helpful. But now to use an example that's a little bit more business relevant, imagine that you're a salesperson and you need to come up with an elevator pitch because maybe you're going to a conference. So you need a 30 to 45 word elevator pitch highlighting key benefits of your new cloud computing service, and you want to focus on integrations and cost savings. So we send that one, and then here it is, and it's that fast. Now, of course, if you have more specifics, like obviously this is very generic, so you're going to get a somewhat generic output. But if you got into incorporating things like brand messaging, other like more detailed information about your business, it becomes much better and a much higher quality output. I'm going to do one more very, very weird specific reference. So in this one, we're going to recommend 3 strategic partnerships a biotech startup should pursue in order to accelerate their drug development timeline. So we put that in there, very specific, and it comes up right away with all of these things. It has industry acronyms, everything. So it assumes that you know what you're talking about. It gets right into the sort of very detailed technical language of the thing that you're looking for. So the next thing I'm going to do is now we're going to start our designing our luxury premium smartphone. So we're going to design something new. And so because I'm a user experience person, I always start with my target audience. So I want to know who is my target audience for this and what are the things that they care about, because that's what I'm going to use to drive features. So this is my prompt. Suggest and describe 3 target buyer personas for this new $1,000 premium smartphone and why they're the target audience. List and describe 5 key design features that would appeal to these personas, including product features they love and the ones that are missing from our target audience. And then summarize a consolidated list of features. So you'll see that the first thing it does is it starts identifying these different personas, right? Like this first one's a power business user. The next one's a tech early adopter. And then you have creators and influencers. So these are the key features that collective target audience would be interested in. So it's not quite the structure necessarily. It's a little odd that it has key features and consolidated lists, and they feel like the same things. And sometimes you don't get the perfect structured output that you're looking for, but like almost all AI output, always think of it mostly as inspiration. You want to be careful about copying and pasting too much because it can get things wrong. So you always want to verify anything that the output that you get. So now we've got these requirements, but let's skip ahead and let's imagine that we are now going to launch this, and we want to create some text-based social media posts. So this one is generate a series of 5 fun teaser posts that would appeal to our target audience. Again, the important thing to know is now that we've defined our target audience in the chat, it remembers who those people are. I don't have to bring it up over and over again. So staying within a single chat really helps, because as you add more and more to the task, it leverages the context of what you did historically to inform what's happening. So you don't have to constantly keep referencing things. It basically remembers it, just like if you're talking to somebody. So here's our 5 fun teaser posts highlighting key features. And then the next one is we now want to send out a marketing email. So we're going to write a 300 to 500 word email to announce the launch of our new premium smartphone. Include imagery and CTA button placeholders where effective, highlight design features and info on how to buy. So let's...
Jack, on that, once it starts generating, do you want to just talk through the why some of that context is important as well, and just explain the art of the...
Yes, absolutely. So interestingly enough, I haven't really dealt with like an email campaign in a while. So one of the first things I did before I even started this is I asked ChatGPT, what is the appropriate length for a email to do something like this, which is how I got the 300 to 500 word email. And this is something, not to sound confusing or crazy, but a lot of times before I even prompt, I actually have it informed what my prompt is going to be, because the more specific I am, the better the results, but I don't always know the right criteria or the right metric. So a lot of times I will use it to help inform that prompt to make that prompt better. So you can see here, like with the output, it has imagery, phone with curved edge display. It actually put in a placeholder for the product name. So I didn't give it a product name, and it didn't assume a product name. So it actually added that as a placeholder for later. So the next one is, a lot of times when you're conceptualizing a brand or you're doing things like this, you need to create sort of sample marketing content and copy. So the next thing we're going to do is write 3 potential ad headlines and 25 words of copy each for our new premium smartphone, suggesting types of lifestyle images and videos that would appeal to our audience, our target audience for this. So we're getting headlines, we're getting the actual copy examples, and even suggestions for imagery. Now, when you think about like Firefly or you think about Midjourney, these things will help you inform the prompts when it's time to create those visuals. One thing to always keep in mind with anything from especially Midjourney is it's almost impossible to get it to render something that is production ready. I would say at its current maturity level, I would think of it more as generating ideas and generating things that you could potentially change. Now, Midjourney has this new feature that I think it's only a week old, where you can now select parts of the image and change just parts of the image. So one of the things that Midjourney struggled with is rendering text, and now you can go in and actually mark a little section where there's text and start tweaking it to get it to look the way you want it to. So the next one is, now that we've done all of this, so we've done all of these prompts, we've built up some context, I want to have a summary because I need to do a presentation about this new phone and how we plan on marketing it. So the next prompt is, because I want to build a presentation, I'm going to ask it to give me an entire business summary, but I want it organized by slides. So I take that, and again, it knows everything. I don't have to repeat anything. It just takes everything and it gives me exactly the slides that should be put together to summarize everything from above. And there are plugins in ChatGPT that will allow you to actually generate actual slides. I haven't seen it produce anything that I thought was usable. So I think from this perspective, this is really all I need. Like if I have a branded template or something I use for presentations, this is what I need to really to start doing the draft and bringing things in and generating the production images. Now, the next thing I'm going to shift to is, now that we've done all of this, we want to start going in and creating images, right? We want to start going to Midjourney, all of these placeholders. We need to start somewhere with those images. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Claude to actually make a prompt for Midjourney for this new product. So we have this product idea, but we have to come up with some visual concepts, some industrial design concepts. And so we want to start exploring that. So what I do is I go in here and I said, I need to create a prompt for an image generator, because the problem with ChatGPT, which is what these prompts were originally designed for, was, again, because it only goes up to September 2021, it actually doesn't know Midjourney exists, but it does understand what image generators are. So I basically said I need a prompt for an image generator. I'm looking for physical concepts for a new premium design smartphone that is understated. It should include detail of the home screen, user interface, etc. And so I entered that, and then what it does is creates this very detailed prompt that I can now enter into Midjourney. And again, I would look at this and say, okay, there's a lot of things in there I don't agree with, because again, it's filling in the gaps. So, you know, the thin slate gray metal frame, maybe I want it to be more aluminum, or I want it to be black. So I might go in and tweak this and then take this and drop it into Midjourney. So I have
Jack, what if I wanted a hot pink version? You can literally change it to anything, right? Like
right, exactly. So you could take this, copy this, right? And before you put it into Midjourney, you might go and edit it and tweak it, right, to get it to be more specific. I'm going to pull up Midjourney really quick and just show you what that looks like. Let's see here. Okay.
We're putting you on the spot because I know Duke was going to actually do Midjourney for us today, but he's having connectivity issues. I feel like today everybody's had connectivity. I had to do a room change between now and then as well, because the next room was booked at 12 o'clock. So I think that's just, today is one of those days, but I really appreciate you doing this on the fly.
Yeah, no worries. So you'll notice that I actually created a background for what's behind me today in Midjourney last night.
Wow.
I live in Arizona, so I was looking like, what would it look like if I lived in this amazing, modern, minimalist lair in Arizona with big windows, and that's what it gave me. So I'm going to take now I'm going to take the prompt that I got from Claude. I'm going to come into Midjourney. Now, Midjourney is accessed through something called Discord. Discord is very similar to Slack, if you know what that is. So you do have to download Discord first, and then this is how you would access Midjourney. Once you sign into their server, you can actually do like a DM with it. So if you go into the public channel for Midjourney and you do your prompts, it means that everybody can see the results. Because I do certain things for clients and I don't necessarily want everybody to see everything I'm generating, I do it in this sort of chat. So I'm in a DM right now with Midjourney. And what you're seeing, just to give you an example before let me do the prompt first. So the way it starts in Midjourney is you have to start with this switch called Imagine. So once you've created Imagine, it now knows that you want to put in a prompt. So I'm going to paste in my prompt, which is exactly like what gave me from Claude. I have no idea what I'm going to see, but let's see what it comes up with. So now it's basically waiting to start. There's a little bit of a delay. I would say what you saw in Terry's demo, they're processing much faster. They also have the firepower of being Adobe and having a lot of computer horsepower. But here it is. Let's see here. So what you're seeing is it's actually building the image. So it starts almost like a very low quality JPEG. And then eventually it starts rendering, and you'll see, like, if you look right above the image, it says 62%. So it's giving you sort of the completion. And when it's done, you'll see all of these things down below. So now you can see that it gave us these 4 different versions. And you can do these just to explain what these are. These mean upsample. So if you look at, like, this is the top left is 1, to the right of that is 2, bottom left is 3, bottom right is 4. You can upsample, meaning you can get a high res version of any of these. So for example, like kind of like the first one. So we'll upsample the first one. And what it does is it basically takes that and creates a high res version. So now if I open this, if I open it in a browser, you couldn't see it, but I get a pretty high res version of this. And one of the things that can do now, and I haven't really played with this, so this is going to be like an experiment live, but you can do this thing called vary certain parts of it. So like, for example, let's say I want to change this to show me a phone icon. So now it's creating a new version and waiting to start. The other thing that you can see down here is these V's, right? Where the V's are down here. And those mean variations. So for example, let's say I really like 2, but I kind of want to see different variations of 2. So I will hit V2, and it actually gives you a chance to like add some things to the prompt or modify it. So let's see if we got like, I can't really tell. It didn't really seem to modify that, so I'm not really sure about that, but let's look at the variation. So remember, we were looking at this one right up here in the upper right. So now what it's doing is it's creating slightly different variations of that.
So essentially you could go from, you could use this tool to come up with new ideas to innovate a product. You could then go and grab sample emails, sample, marketing copy, sample imagery to then take back to a design team to be able to articulate your design idea or to articulate your conceptual idea for innovation, right? That's what I think is really, really exciting. This is not publish ready, market ready, go to market ready for like a new iPhone or something, right? But it's certainly showing that you can go from a conceptual idea to some sort of an image that represents that conceptual idea in a 20-minute window.
100%. Like if you're doing like an investor pitch deck, or you're just trying to get your idea across and you need some visuals, this is the best way. And of course, you're going to tell people this isn't the final version, but it gets you much more closer, right? And you think about a lot of people that are doing pitch decks don't necessarily always have the ability to create a lot of rich imagery. And so they have to rely on hiring a graphic designer and finding somebody who's available and spending money on that. If you're just doing an initial pitch, a lot of these images are probably good enough. I mean, again, the art of prompting is how you get the quality out, but I'm going to do another one here. So the next one is really focusing on UI. So I had Claude create a prompt that shows me a calendar appointment detail screen for the new smartphone, just to give a sense of what it looks like. And it added a lot of detail, like the schedule, product launch meeting scheduled for Tuesday to 2 to 3 p.m. I did not add that level of detail. So it basically, what it's doing is giving me as much information as possible to give me as specific an output as possible. So we'll launch that and then see what that comes up with. And I would say the speed of what you're seeing right now is pretty typical, but it can get faster and slower depending on traffic, obviously.
Fascinating. I haven't played with Midjourney at all. I'm a DALL-E 2. I've done Adobe Firefly. I have not got my head across Midjourney yet. So it's fascinating to see the difference between the different platforms.
Yeah, the way I describe it to people, like as far as expectations on accuracy or quality of output, if you think about text generation, the output is almost always very accurate, very specific, very detailed, and mostly right. But when you're in Midjourney, when you're trying to do things in Midjourney, think of it as trying to do things while you're in a dream state. So it interprets a lot, and it extrapolates a lot, and it can be very odd, right? So we've got this result here, right? But this is kind of like, this doesn't necessarily look like an appointment. It kind of just looks more like a home screen. So even though we gave it all of that detail, there's nothing that says 2 to 3 p.m. A lot of the detail that was in our prompt is missing, and that is a normal thing to happen in in Midjourney. Sometimes it will completely ignore parts of your prompt, but pick up on others. And sometimes it's just a matter of changing syntax, or even like I've noticed sometimes too much detail can throw it off, and I've gotten better quality outputs, but it is a total trial and error thing. Like, I would say if you ever want to play with Midjourney, just get in and start playing with it. And there's actually a section in my book that talks about how to use Midjourney. There's sections about how graphic designers can use it for like brand explorations and things like that.
So I have a concept on that, right? Which is like, if you aren't experimenting with these type of tools, like, you almost need to be, just to understand the capability. But I actually kind of like that there is an art form to it that is your own individual contribution. Like, you and I could both approach writing a prompt for a new smartphone, but I'm going to think about it in a different light. Like I said, mine would be pink, or it might have certain different elements that from my creative interpretation. So it really still allows that creative interpretation piece to come through from the individual prompt writer or the creator that's starting to think about what the possibilities are, right? And I think that's what I'm so excited about, because we could all sort of sit here together in one room and get given the same brief, go off and write different prompts, and we're going to have different outputs which are a little bit more aligned to what our vision of innovating would be, or innovating a product would be. So I think that's what excites me the most.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that got me started on the journey of making a book was when I started openly working with AI. And I've been working in design for 25 years. I worked for a lot of different agencies, and everything from like Fortune 50 down to small startups. And when I started doing that, I got a lot of DMs from people asking me, is this going to replace my job? Am I going to lose my job because of this? Yeah. And there were so many people pinging me that I actually did a Zoom call that I thought was going to be 10 people and turned into 140 to literally address that and talk about that, and explain to people that you should not be afraid of it, because it is definitely coming. But if you don't get on board and start using it right now, it could come by and you could get missed. You know what I mean? Because the real opportunities, especially for designers, are going to be coming in the next few months. And if you were a designer and you went to an interview 6 months from now and you said that you didn't have any experience working with AI, there's no way you're going to make it to the second round. So I think, getting the experience, starting to use it. When people ask me, should I be excited or terrified? I always say yes. But you should not just stay in a state of terrified. You should be excited. And I discovered all these things. Like I said, I had to make a website for somebody who all I had was a cropped picture of them, sitting outside somewhere. And I was able to create an entire hero space that expanded that in Adobe Generative AI, and be able to create all of this background where I could lay these headlines over. If I had tried to do that manually, it would have taken hours, and it wouldn't have even been nearly as good. Yeah. So I think it's pretty amazing. So I'm going to do one more, which is to switch from product design into like, okay, what would a social media post look like right now? Again, one of the things it struggles with is text. Like, if we look at this thing, you'll notice that there's like this made up sort of text, like not English, but just a bunch of text. And it's gotten better, because it used to not even be able to show the alphabet a lot. But I would say before, it used to look like aliens wrote it. And now it's at least getting to be like, like Western characters and things like that. So the next thing we're going to do is a social media post. So we want to create a lifestyle image announcing the launch of a new premium luxury smartphone. It shows the inside of a modern, elegant home with marble floors. So all of that came from really just this very general thing that I put in Claude, asking it to give me something for a social media post. So we'll send that out and see what it comes up with. And if people want to start putting questions in the chat, we can, after this demo, we can kind of switch to trying to answer some questions. Does that sound good, Tia?
Yeah, that's perfect. Well, of course we would blow over time. I mean, there's just so much to cover.
Yeah. Yeah, I could spend hours and hours talking about this stuff. It's pretty amazing. I'm continuously blown away. So there we go.
Wow.
Now the ironic thing is only one of them actually has a phone in it. So again, it's there's a lot of learning about, like, once you get used to the basics of using AI in general for text or image, the next really advanced thing to start learning is parameters. Yep. So there are parameters in ChatGPT where you can affect the output. It's the same with Midjourney. So in Midjourney, you'll see these parameters with this dash. So for example, if I wanted to take this prompt, right, and I just copy this and put imagine, and I put in my prompt, but I put in a switch because I want it to be, instead of square, I want it to be like sort of landscape portrait. I can say aspect ratio 16:9. And then the next output, you'll see these will be in the shape of a 16:9. And there are tons of parameters in Midjourney. In fact, there is, if you Google Google Sheet Midjourney generator, there's an amazing spreadsheet where you can literally go in and enter parameters, very similar to what you saw in the Firefly demo that Terry did earlier, where they had the menu on the right. Somebody has kind of recreated that type of interaction to essentially go in and switch a lot of the parameters, and then it'll build the prompt for you.
So just to pause on that for a second, you said Google Midjourney prompt.
Yeah, generator,
or is it cheat?
Yeah.
Is it a cheat sheet?
It might be cheat sheet. Yeah, I think it might be cheat sheet. You might be right.
Let's have a look. Let's see what we come up with. I'll see if I can find it for everybody and link it.
Yeah, that'd be great. So you'll see it's interesting. The only thing that we switched was the aspect ratio. Everything else was the same, but it definitely affected what we saw, right? Like this one has no photos, and it's kind of like, it feels like it's gone off on its own sort of like creative journey, and it kind of ignored a lot of the prompt. But that is what happens with Midjourney. Like if I scroll up, you can see I have like almost everything I've done. So I've, like, just to even get to like the background I'm using, it started with this, like this right here, right? And then I was like, okay, that's not gonna work. So I changed it, right? I'm like, okay, that's closer, but still too busy. I like the windows, I like the background, but still way too busy. So I kept modifying, and then I finally got to the one that I'm using now. And then I upsampled, this was another one I upsampled, and then I upsampled this one. But if I go way up, you can see like I was doing practices for like this presentation and getting these very weird, bizarre, like, I don't know, like Elizabethan fantasy cell phones. So again, it's like, it's a lot of trial and error, and you can see like the evolutionary cycles. I mean, you're kind of seeing it in reverse, but like there's some of the social media ad content, and look at, these are very weird. Look how big the phone is, and look at how strange her arm looks. So these are all things that, you know, you basically accept in any kind of like early thing like this, right? Like I was trying to do something for a crypto business, and trying to come up with some imagery, some hero imagery that was kind of a little abstract. I was looking at like some really weird things about like what would Jack and Jill the nursery rhyme look like if it was at Burning Man? Just a lot of like really strange, like bizarre explorations. I'm really into music. I used to be a DJ in LA a long time ago. And so I like experiment with a lot of like different things like this. Like if I'm doing like playlist covers for Spotify, like I sometimes explore some of this imagery. So it's I would say, you know, download Discord, get on the Midjourney server, and just start playing with it. I mean, you can't do anything wrong. I mean, you're going to get weird outputs, and then you'll learn about like, oh, okay, if I change this, it gets better. If I change this, it gets better. And you get better and better. I've been using Midjourney for months, and I still have to go through probably 5 or 6 iterations before I even get close to anything I'm looking for.
Yeah, no, totally. And also I can see in the comments, Michelle, thanks for coming in. Yes, there is absolutely DALL-E. We originally today were hoping to demonstrate some of the OpenAI products, but I said ChatGPT this morning wasn't cooperating. Then we had Firefly, then DALL-E, then Midjourney, so to fit DALL-E in as well. But what we would like to do moving forward is create these ongoing workshops where we're just experimenting and iterating with different tools. On top of that, we would love to hear from you on maybe focus sessions. So are there sessions that we should be pulling together that are just one focus session? It could be a deep dive on ChatGPT, for instance, or it could be a deep dive on Midjourney, or a deep dive into DALL-E, or is there another, generative tool that you want to see demoed? We'd love to hear from you. Jack, you have been phenomenal. I know we didn't throw the Midjourney into your plate originally, but unfortunately Duke had connectivity issues, so he couldn't join, and he's got some amazing prompts that he's already written that he wanted to share with everyone, so we will do those again another day. And obviously the Firefly demo went a little bit longer than expected, and that was great because we got to see a little bit more range. And for those of you that have stuck with us for longer than the hour, like, we truly appreciate you. I think in the next 3 minutes, we should probably think about wrapping up. So if anybody has a question for Jack around image generation, around generating text prompt, and by the way, the prompts we've shown you today can also be replicated in ChatGPT. We actually originally wrote the prompts for ChatGPT, and if you go across to ChatGPT, you will see a slightly different layout. I also like to play with Bard, and sometimes we'll take the same prompt that I write and use it in the 3 different environments to see the different outputs. It's mind-blowing. There's free versions as well, so you can start using ChatGPT for free. I do stress you cannot use your own company IP if it is private in these public models, right? Don't be taking code and pulling it across that's a product that your company's working on, top secret, or any of those type of things. These models do feed the data back if you're working in a public environment. If you do have a private environment set up, obviously a completely different story, and ignore what I said, but that would obviously be dictated by your C-level team, or your CTO engineering team on what is an actual private layer and what's safe to play with in a work environment. So I just wanted to throw that out there while saying to everyone, please go and experiment. Just don't experiment with, private customer data or, company data that is not allowed to be public. So any questions?
I was say one more. One of the controversial, I think, things that will come up with this is, you may have heard this, but one of the things is this idea of style, right? Like in the style of, or similar to. And I've done things where, like, I've taken, tried to create graphic design that was in the style of 2 different famous graphic designers, or like, Bauhaus meets Paul Rand and all. And it's so insanely close to what they would have authored, and it's like a very, like, for me personally, I wonder where those boundaries exist when you're recreating original artworks from an artist or somebody who owns that, because they typically own the rights to the pieces they've created, but not necessarily their style. And I think that's going to probably become a new thing where people are going to copyright their style, so if somebody can't just render something from that person's creative vision.
Yeah, I think digital rights management is going to be a new field that pops up, and I would love to ultimately see the junction of blockchain mixed with AI, so that there's like a system of record that, if you think about voice, right? Voice can now be utilized in synthetic voice. And if you're an artist who spent all of these years training your voice and all of these years creating your music, you don't exactly want your music being recreated and put into some of these models that gets distributed, and then you're not getting a royalty for it, or it damaging your brand. So there's a lot to work out, which is why I always say to people, like, when you're creating content, make sure you're not plagiarizing somebody else's hard work. Like, this is meant to be an interpretive tool for you to innovate and create, not to steal from others. I think that's also an ethical thing. But I do see more and more a need for that IP protection part. And I think seeing the Adobe presentation and seeing that Adobe is actually facing this as more of every image generated in there, they're not stealing from another artist. They're using their stock imagery. I think is a really, really good approach. Some of these other models have been trained off internet data, and some of that internet data, although it be public internet data, is still the IP of somebody else's. So I think, you do have to use caution. You can't just go and have a picture of McDonald's, for instance, with your new iPhone going through the drive-through and have their logo or their branding in your marketing material, right? So things like that, I think you just have to be very mindful of. Still, the IP rules apply. Like, would you take a photo of McDonald's with your iPhone in life and then basically promote that as your marketing material without McDonald's approval? You probably wouldn't. So then use the same ruling as what you would in reverse. I think that's just a really good
I think there's already lawsuits in place from like Getty or iStock, where they're already realizing that a lot of the things that even Midjourney's rendering is coming from some of those that art those original things that they have on their sites, because they have samples of all those images, right? So the AI could crawl every one of those samples and use that to help generate images. So I think there's already some legal challenges involved in that, and where the source is and what's the derivative coming from. So I think these are all things to be aware of. And you're right, T. Like, you really, the thing to do is always err on the side of being ethical, responsible, and legal, and let those sort of boundaries get defined before you start playing even close to them.
Yeah, don't, if you fly close to the sun, you'll get burnt, right? It's the same principles apply. You're the one that's posting the image. And if you don't have permission to use that image, then you're the one that's at fault, right? That's the general principles still apply. You can't be, but the AI did it. And, you can't exactly sue the AI in that instance, right? Because you're the one that's then posting it on your platforms. I see a couple of questions, so I want to get through them. Okay, so for where we're able to find a sheet with prompt generated parameters. Now, depending on what tool you are using, always do a Google search to see what prompt generated parameter documents there are. I know that OpenAI have a document. I can try to find it and link it here, but if you just did an OpenAI search in Google and then looked for prompt parameters, there would be a sheet that comes up. The same with Midjourney, the same with some of the others. Just use Google for some of these things. I'll also drop in a couple of cheat sheets which talk through the general makeup of a prompt, right? How it's important to give context. Sometimes it's important to include not what to do. So if there's things that you don't want in there, or if there are certain words that you want the prompt to be able to utilize and focus on, like if you're doing 10 steps to being a marketer or something like that, and you wanted to highlight SEO strategies or PPC, like all of those levels of detail is really important. The other thing that's important is style and tone. You can ask it to act drunk. I'm not joking. I actually saw that at a demo recently. Someone's like, ChatGPT, act as if you're drunk and send me drunk text messages. And it was quite a funny thread. Or you can go as far as being professional, personality, you name it. The one thing these models do not have, right, is the voice of your organization, the style and tone that's specific to your company's unique voice and tone. It's not there yet. So just be mindful when you're creating these different prompts for different outputs, whether it's email marketing, social media posts. I always suggest use it as a draft tool and then craft your message from that, and then make it sound like your company, make it sound like your tone of voice, put in your little idiosyncrasy. Idiosyncrasy, is that the right word? God, I'm tired today. Idiosyncratism, is that the, maybe, help me out there. Personality. Anyway, long story short, guys and girls, the whole point of prompting is to get creative. Please start experimenting. We're going to start creating probably a bi-weekly forum where we'll jump online and start demoing different platforms, including synthetic voice generators, video generators. We're going to look at a whole plethora of different tools and platforms. People like Jack will be regulars. We'll have Adobe regularly. We'll try to get someone from OpenAI and some of the other applications to join. There's I mean, there's so many of them. The landscape is growing every single week. So stay tuned for more. Again, let me see if there's any more questions that are pressing before we go. I noticed there's a lot around IP, which is the plugin you can use for the paid model for ChatGPT.
By the way, I would also suggest everybody check out poe.com. It's POE.com. It's an entire directory of almost every AI tool or service online. Once you have to log in to get to like all of the other ones, but it has a plethora of almost every single one, including the most popular. It's a really good resource.
Love that. Thank you so much for that tip. I know there's a lot of questions in here and we're not going to get to all of them throughout. I'm just trying to flick through. I'm very thankful for everyone turning up today, very thankful for the interaction. Also for those in the audience that have been sharing links with each other and communicating with each other and connecting with each other. That's what community is all about. So keep it up. It's so inspiring to see you all jumping on board and even communicating with each other. So again, very thankful. Jack, you're amazing. I truly,
Yeah, thanks.
Absolutely the best. And it's been the best working with you the last couple of days to pull this together. With that, everybody, we are going to end the stream. Thank you so much for connecting and stay tuned for the next event.
Thanks, everybody.